talk today about what I think is the biggest mistake women make when they're dating. So I think it's best to probably go into a bit of backstory. I know people always click off at this point, but I think I need to say it to make this point seem valid, basically. I said before in my other videos how in my 20s I was the pursuer, basically. I was going out there chasing men. But the reason that I went out and I was basically being like an active person in my love life is because out of all the years of my life, I have never ever been approached by a guy. Right through university, school, going to clubs, going to pubs, going to bars, being out, socialising. I've never had the direct approach from a guy. So I've never had a guy come up to me, put his moves on me, and I've never had that. I'm not lying to you 100%, being real here. I've never had a guy come up to me and chat me up or ask me out. So basically, during my university years, it didn't really matter. I was there to get the degree. I didn't want to be another teenage pregnancy statistic. And then once I got my degree, I kind of thought, oh, do you know what, I really would, you know, really like to find someone now. Let's get serious about this. So like most people in my 20s, I would go out. I kind of noticed that men were not approaching me, whereas you'd see guys approach other girls. Guys would not approach me, and I didn't really think anything of it because I was still young. But then things changed, because while guys were not approaching me in real life, guys were not doing like the cold approach on me. Once I started using dating apps and once I started online dating, then it all changed. It was almost like a tsunami, and then people were approaching me and I was like, oh, thank God people are actually approaching me. But even then I was kind of noticing that because the people that were approaching me didn't really want anything serious, people were just messaging me basically because they wanted to have sex. The people that were messaging me weren't quality men that wanted to take me out on dates. So I was kind of stuck in catch-22, because when I went out with friends and in bars, people weren't approaching me. Maybe because, I don't know, because I was with a group of friends, or when we'd go out after work for drinks, it would be a mixed crowd. Guys aren't really going to come up to a load of girls if they're sitting with boys, because guys are going to think, oh, well, that's their boyfriend that they're with. So it was difficult for me to kind of meet people organically, I guess. I think that's why I've kind of tended to rely on dating apps. So what I was doing, instead of waiting for the guys to come to me, in a way I almost couldn't wait, and I was being the aggressor. So I'd be on the dating apps and I'd be messaging guys, trying to get dates, etc. And what I found was that, yeah, the guys were receptive to it. Yeah, the guys would chat to me or maybe go on 1 or 2 dates, but it would always fizzle. And I would think to myself, why is it fizzling out? What am I doing wrong? They say that I'm attractive, they seem into me, but after a couple of dates, it's just fizzling out. And then, like most people, I'd kind of think, you know, watch dating advice and I'd try and, like, you know, work out what I was doing wrong. And I say doing wrong in inverted commas because I wasn't doing anything wrong. And then basically it just dawned on me that basically it was me. It was me being the aggressor. It was me being the dominant one. And men do not like you to be the dominant one in the relationship. And if they do like you to be the dominant one, they tend to be the guys that like to be mothered, that like to be like looked after, and you're gonna get a weak passive man. So because I was being the dominant one, because I was being the aggressor, the guys were just literally pulling back from me. They were scared shitless basically, because I was just being too full on. And because I was being too full on, they would lose attraction for me. Anything they felt for me physically, or for this girl's hot, this girl's attractive, I would lose them on my behaviours and how I was acting. This is why I want to stress with people, looks can only get you so far through the door. Because yes, looks will initially attract a man, but it's ultimately going to be your behaviours and how you act that are going to propel you into the girlfriend category. And because I was just being too aggressive, trying to force things with people that weren't really that into me, this is why things ultimately weren't working. And then it all kind of twigged in my brain was that, well, I'm going to use a metaphor here, love a metaphor on this channel. I was driving the car. And the guys were just getting in for the ride, and you can interpret ride however you want. But the guys were just taking the easy option. I was driving, I was doing all the hard work. These guys would just jump in the car, kind of go along with it because I was being the dominant one, the aggressor. And then ultimately they would just get fed up and then leave the car because they ultimately weren't in control. And it's only once you kind of acknowledge that as a female, you cannot be the dominant one in the relationship. Once you realise this, it all clicks. And yeah, the feminists are going to hate me, but if you don't have that guy ultimately chasing and pursuing you and creating the momentum, you are on the road to nowhere, basically, because ultimately men propose. And as a woman, you have to accept that men propose. Obviously, females can propose, but do you want to be the female that asks your husband to marry you? Because I'd rather be single for the rest of my life and have 10 cats than have to force somebody down the aisle. So when I say dominant, I don't mean you have to be an absolute ice queen, never initiate a text with a guy ever for the rest of your life. I'm not advocating the rules, a book that I read years ago. The rules say that you cannot contact a guy during the weekend because you're supposed to be doing stuff. Well, hang on a minute. Why can I not do that? I might want to go out on a Saturday night with a guy. Like, I'm not going to like stay at home and pretend to be cool. So yeah, so for whatever reason, I just don't get approached. People have said to me like, oh, you're probably just intimidating, or people think you already have a boyfriend, or etc. Like I say, because men weren't approaching me organically when I went out, I was filling this void. And I was filling this void of, well, people aren't asking me out, then I have to go and ask guys out. I was picking the guys that I found attractive, but these guys weren't relating to me, and they might have found me slightly attractive or attractive enough to date, but they didn't find me compelling enough to put that into a relationship context. This is why you have to wait, and you have to wait for the guys that are absolutely crazy about you. And this is why, if I think about me, there've been like a couple of guys in my life that have been absolutely crazy about me, and I haven't had to almost try. I've almost just had to like be myself and the guy will like me. Whereas what you're doing when you're asking guys out, on some level it emasculates them deep down. What he ultimately might feel flattered about in the initial stages of dating, he will ultimately come to resent you for it, because deep down he will feel incredibly emasculated, and this will turn him off. Ultimately, you're going to be sitting there thinking, would he have asked me out if I hadn't approached him? And deep down, that will get to a girl. And deep down, that will get in her psyche. And she'll think, yeah, he's really not into me, is he? I'm the one doing all the work. I think part of being a woman is accepting that not every guy will be into you, and to accept that only certain people will find you attractive, and to be okay with that. And to basically not go out there looking for love, because nothing turns off men more than a woman that's desperate for love, than a woman that's desperate for a relationship. So ultimately, you have to just sadly leave it to fate, which sucks. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone.